I work at a place called Edelman, which is a public relations firm in the United States and around the world. But perhaps more importantly, I'm a rare disease advocate. I have Charcot-Marie tooth. Anyone here have Charcot-Marie tooth? Wow. 1 in 2,500. What are the odds? Who's heard of Charcot-Marie tooth? Good for you. All right. I need to do my job better, but I'm glad that you guys know. So I have it. It's in my family. It's been there for a very long time. I'm involved with the Charcot-Marie Tooth Association, cmtausa.org. And I'm, again, really excited to be here. I've been working in Washington for a good amount of time. I came to Edelman just about a month ago from the American Cancer Society, where I worked for about 10 years. So I was on that side of the equation, on the patient advocacy side of the equation for a very long time, and really feel like I'll never leave that part of it. While there, I did communications and with media, and a lot of work with grassroots advocates just like yourselves in getting attention for the great efforts that you're making. So glad to be talking to you today. Okay. Let me ask first a little bit of a poll. How many of you have been in the media before? Okay, that's great. And how many of you have a pretty reasonable certainty that you're going to get media coverage about your involvement in this conference here today, this year? Okay. That could, the latter question, the answer to the latter question could be and should be all of you. And the good news is that it's not hard to do. So first of all, it's great that so many of you have been in the media before. You've gotten a taste for what that's like. You understand a bit about how reporters work, how the media works. It's ever changing, but the fundamentals are the same. It's great that so many of you are already planning to do media outreach, or maybe you've already done so. And again, as I said, it's for the rest of you, there are things that you can do that make it really easy, and frankly, you've probably heard them all already in other contexts, so a lot of what I say will be a review. But first of all, what's really important to know is that you are the story. You may not realize it, but you're not like your average person walking down the street in your hometowns that's going to work each day and focused on their family and leading their lives. You, for some reason, decide to leave your jobs and your families and your lives to come here to do something really, really important. And that makes you different. That makes you special. That makes you interesting. And you may not think of yourselves that way, and I'm not up here saying this just because I'm a speaker talking to you. It really is true. You're doing something that a lot of people don't do. You have a condition, or you have loved ones with a condition, with a disease, and you're coming to Washington on your own time, in many cases on your own dollar, talking to big, powerful members of Congress who just want photo ops with you. They actually want more than that, but it is funny to think about, to try to make change for hundreds, thousands, millions of people in your towns across the country and around the world. That's something different. It's something to remember that makes you special. Hold on. So, first thing, and this really applies to everything that you're going to do here, everything that you've been doing before you got here, and everything you're going to do when you get home. And again, it's probably a bit of a repeat, but not in the same words, I'm sure. But be bold when you're talking about media. The first slide was really about telling you how special you are, how different you are. Take pride in that. If you're still not believing me, just don't, but believe it anyway. Take pride in it. And be bold. Say goodbye to shy. We're not modest when we're talking about politics and when we're talking about media coverage. We know that lawmakers aren't modest. Watch any aspect of the presidential campaign and you know that that's true. So we can't be modest as advocates either. Say goodbye to shy. Channel your passion. You're here for a reason. Again, you've left your jobs, you've left your families, you've left your communities for a certain amount of time to come here and do a job. When you get back, or even while you're here, whenever you're talking to reporters, talking to friends, talking to lawmakers, channel that passion. I'm here for a reason. We need something done. I'm representing so many people in my city, in my state, in my country who are facing the same issues I am. We need your help. And when that's your message to Congress, when it comes to the media, it's basically saying that exact same thing, just saying that's what I was telling my member of Congress. We need their help. And tell your story. I assume that many of you are practiced at talking about yourselves. You've heard it earlier, again, in other contexts. It's really important with the media as well. What the media produces in a newspaper is called a story. What the media produces on the radio or on TV is called a story. There's a reason it's called that, is because it's telling stories. So tell your story. Don't be afraid. Don't be shy to talk about yourself. Use yourself as an example for what so many others are going through, and really make it compelling. Just like with members of Congress, be aware and prepare. So when you get home, what I'd like each of you to do is to think of 3 media sources that you read or consume on a regular basis at home. Could be your major daily newspaper, could be your local community newspaper, could be a radio station that you listen to on the way to work or while running errands in your car. Could be a website that you just can't do without each morning or evening. Think of 3, 4, 5 of them, but start with 3 and say, that's who I'm going to go to when I get home. That's who I'm going to tell about my experience here. You may know the outlet already from what you've read, but make sure you learn about the outlet as well. You may read the sports page, or you may listen to a certain talk show, or you may visit a certain section of the website. Obviously, learn about the outlet. Do some additional digging so you get a full understanding of what the outlet is about and what they're trying to do. Get an idea of a certain reporter that you want to reach out to. Is there someone who covers health? Is there someone who covers just interesting people? Is there a columnist in your paper that you figure is just dying to write about something like this? Is there a radio host that people listen to all the time? Reporters who are kind of figures in their community are people to think about. So think about that reporter, but again, don't go at the reporter or think you understand the reporter just based on how you've thought about them thus far, especially if media is not something you've done before. Make sure to look at the complete kind of work of that reporter so you understand where they're coming from on a number of issues. It's research. It shouldn't take long, but it'll help a whole lot. And then in the case of letters to the editor, which was just mentioned, or in the case of op-eds, which are like your own opinion articles that can appear in the newspaper or even read online or read on the radio, make sure you understand what submission guidelines are. For both letters to the editor and op-eds, outlets will say we want it at 150 words max, or we want it at 500 words max, or we need it the text pasted in an email. Don't send us attachments because we're afraid of viruses, that sort of thing. Be thinking about doing these things, but also make sure you understand what the submission requirements are. And that includes photos too. You've been told here, take photos tomorrow with lawmakers, take photos in front of the Capitol, and share those on social media. Do that, and then prepare to send that photo to a local newspaper, a local website, or some other media outlet in your hometown. They don't need professional photographers to get a great picture of you in DC that they can put a caption underneath or maybe even write a story about. But make sure that you're giving them a photo in the way that they're going to most likely take it, and that's not going to go into a spam box or get thrown away because they're worried about spam. And then always be patient and persistent with the media. So again, you're thinking of about 3 media outlets, maybe 4, maybe 5. None of us thinks that they're going to answer your call or write a story about you the very first time you contact them. Newspapers and other outlets are really busy. Reporters are really busy. So be patient, but be persistent. You may start out by emailing them. You may not hear back. So a few days later, email them again. You may not hear back. About a week later, email them again. Be polite, but be persistent. You don't need to start dogging them or hounding them beyond what the norms of politeness dictate, but do it on a regular basis and make sure they know that you're not going away just because they don't have time to address your story the first time around. By all means, feel free to call. Reporters generally answer emails nowadays. They get a lot of phone calls, but go ahead and call. Leave a message and call again, just as with email. Be out in your community. We talked about the amount of time that lawmakers are home. That's not only a great time to interact with lawmakers, that's a great time to interact with the media that are covering those lawmakers. So on the recesses where you saw that in the white when members of Congress aren't here in DC, go to their websites, find out what their calendars are, and go to events. They hold events. That's why they're home, is to meet with constituents. Not only do you want to meet with them, it serves the prior purpose, but you figure that if a member is home and they're holding a public event, they want to get media coverage around it. So you're going to be able to meet reporters at those events as well. You've already taken a lot of time, as we mentioned, and you've already put a lot of effort into it. It requires more time and more effort, but just a little bit here and there can yield great success. And then follow these folks. Not only lawmakers and policymakers, but reporters as well. It used to be that a reporter's story was successful depending on how many newspapers they sold. Now, every reporter online, in print, print, broadcast, they're all looking at how much that's being shared online. And they too want to be followed. They too want their social media following. So when they write a story, they can immediately punch it out to the folks who follow them. So if you got a reporter that you're aiming at or a publication that you're aiming at, follow them. Engage them on social media just as you are engaging on social media yourself. And then amplify good articles and reports. Start to be your own media outlet. I know that may sound crazy, but that's the world that we live in. This is what Facebook, Twitter, and other social media handles are about. It's pushing out your own media, not allowing the so-called experts at the New York Times or the local newspaper to do it. So if you see a great article, you're already doing this, I hope. Share it on Facebook. You're already doing this, posting it on LinkedIn or tweeting about it. Go in and comment on it. You may not do that as much, but comments are another way that newspapers and online publications gauge interest in the story. And if you start to do it on a regular basis, doing it in a responsible way, in a thoughtful way, they're going to start to get to know you. You combine a lot of comments with a social media following, with being present at events, with having come here and doing the outreach that you're going to do to key reporters and outlets when you get home, and you become known as a figure in the rare disease space. And that makes you more interesting and more someone that the media is likely to come to. So when you do finally get that opportunity to talk to a reporter, they pick up the phone, they answer your email, you see them at an event, or you see them at the grocery store, or you see them even in your personal capacity, what do? Identify yourself, obviously. Describe what you do, who you are. Broaden the context. This is the same thing you're doing with lawmakers. Hi, I'm Steve Weiss. I live in Kensington, Maryland. I have Charcot-Marie tooth disease, a rare disease that affects the muscles of the legs and feet. I'm here telling Congress that they need to increase funding for research at the National Institutes of Health. And here's where we are right now, context. I'm here representing 200,000 people or 2 million people or 20 million people across the country who have this disease, who are relying on Congress, just as I am, to increase funding for research, or to pass the OPEN Act, or to get patients more involved in decisions at the FDA, or whatever it is. So start with yourself, and then use yourself as an example for so many others. Broadening, the reporter can only cover you, because you're the only person they're talking to. That's the example they're going to use. But the story gains relevance when you represent yourself as fighting the same battles or fighting on behalf of thousands, millions, tens of millions of people across the country. And then, I heard someone earlier say, look in the mirror and start talking. I was actually doing this just the other night because I'm not used to going on new business pitches in my new job. Never had to do that at the American Cancer Society. So I was looking in the mirror, talking to myself, and it really was useful. Make sure you do stick to your message. It's a very similar dynamic with the media as it is with lawmakers. You heard earlier, tell your story, but not too long. Go into some detail, but not too many details. Show your emotion, but don't lose self-control. Same thing with reporters. It really is a similar approach. What you're doing in both cases, lawmakers, policymakers, and reporters, is you're trying to persuade. You're trying to engage somebody. And you want to do that by giving them enough information, have them ask more questions, but not give them so much that they just can't process all of it or they have to shut down. And then my little cartoon at the end is there a spin doctor in the house? Spin doctor is kind of a, it's a word that's used both in a positive and a negative sense. But what I mean for it here is that we're all telling a story in a persuasive way. You could call that being a spin doctor. That's kind of a funny way of looking at it, perhaps. But really what it is you're taking facts, you're taking figures, you're taking your story, and you're trying to persuade. And that's the most important thing to do. I thank you very much. My little secret was really a little bit unfair. It's that dessert is outside, but that'll be there for quite some time. But thank you all very, very much.